Hey, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Editorial Director of Brand Insider at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Jessica Serrano, and she is the CMO of Dig In Restaurants. Hey, Jessica.
Nice to meet you. It's good to be connected.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. And as I always say, I love to get you referred to me. And as soon as I saw your name and then went and did my snooping and checked you out, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yes, would love to include you in our series. So I'm so happy that we were able to make this work.
That's great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we also have to, for people who may be wondering, I called you it Dig In, and it's
That's right.
out, and it was Dig In. Then it went to Dig, which actually I admit in my research was getting confused, and I was like, I switched it twice, and now I just saw today that you were posting that it is now back to Dig In, and without getting into like really the work side of it, but you made a very good point that people remember you as something. You know what I mean? Like you sort of looked at it initially as, I could call you Jess or Jessica. So you didn't really see it as so important. But if I love this brand, if I'm so passionate about Dig In, and then all of a sudden you switch it to Dig, it's kind of like, wait, Jessica, what happened to you? Why are you Jess now? Like, are you a different
Yes.
person? And so talk about that and why, in terms of in that kind of scope, why it's important to sort of go back to maybe its roots.
Sure. Well, anytime that I have the honor of becoming a steward of a brand, I like to spend time listening to the audience. And so it just kept coming up when I would share with people that I was leading marketing at Dig. If they were familiar with the brand, they would usually say, like, oh, like Dig In? Or what happened to the inn? And so it just kind of kept gnawing at me at the back of my head of there's a deeper question there, which is that what happened to the brand that I loved? Is this supposed to signal some change that I'm not getting or understanding? And so that's why we just one day as a leadership team, we looked at each other around the table and said, should we go back to in? We have full agency to make this decision. And in this kind of environment, in this economy, as they say, it felt like the right time to give our customers back what they know and love us for. And so we've been having a lot of fun with bringing back the inn.
Yeah, well, and I think what you just said, whether you're a restaurant or any brand or any marketer, listening to your audience, listening to the consumers, listening to the people that you are catering to, so it's you can think, oh, this is better or this is cooler, dig, like, and if that's not what you're hearing from everyone else, the people you want to serve, then okay, change it. It's not about you or your team.
It's not about us.
Smart ones listening and then doing what's needed.
Let the guests decide is my mantra.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so as I always say, I do my snooping, and on LinkedIn, and again, talking about restaurant marketing, it's all about, you wrote, restaurant marketing is all about making an impact with the resources you have. And then you went on to say, I love figuring out how to cut through the noise. Okay, so I want to ask not about the restaurant, not about Dig In, but how are you, Jessica, making an impact at work? Like, what do you think? People, when they look back on your time with them, what will they remember?
It all comes back to curiosity. I've always been really curious about what the relationship is that a customer has with a brand. What are their pain points in their life? And how can a brand make their lives either easier or better? And so when I look back at the various projects that I've had the honor of working on, that's always been the common theme, whether it was launching the value menu at Taco Bell, or bringing Diablo sauce to Taco Bell, or putting the Whopper back on TV, or bringing the Inn back to Dig. It's always been underpinned by listening to guests and identifying how our brand can support their lives.
Well, okay, so that's what you bring for your consumers, for your guests, but
Mhm.
your team, like, is it an energy? Is it a certain, like, what's that about Jessica that really maybe maybe the consumers, maybe your guests aren't knowing anything about, but your team, this is what you bring to the table that you think is, whether it's your superpower or really what you do well.
Well, when it comes to leading others, I really am a big believer in leading hip to hip, and that curiosity also flows through in how I manage others. So what I'm looking for is what is somebody's innate strengths, and not only that, but what energizes them, what drains them, and the best intersection is when they're doing work that energizes them in service of the business. But I love to have regular conversations with the team as well to understand, well, what's next for you. And so constantly thinking about curating and supporting the next crop of marketers in terms of making sure that they're working on projects that are energizing them. So not only are we building great brands, but I'm really proud of the careers that I've helped support as well in this work.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're one, if you don't help support those things, they're going to get bored and they'll either find it somewhere else or they won't do their job as well. So it really, aside from being beneficial to them, ultimately it's beneficial to the full team and yourself as well. Because as you said, it's just really elevating everyone to where they want to go as much.
Yeah, and if I do my job well, sometimes their next chapter is not with us. And so I'm also, a cheerleader of a lot of folks that I've had the chance to work with that have moved on to other brands too. So sometimes that growth actually requires moving on to something entirely different. And I love that. That's okay too.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure your team appreciates that. I know I have appreciated that in the past with people who were my leaders. Okay, so obviously you were mentioning the different things you've worked on, the different lots of food in there,
Yeah.
right? And which is it's pretty much from what I'm seeing, it's been in the food
All food.
industry for your whole career. So,
Mhm.
but I want to ask you, so I like to go back to when you were graduating college and what you were envisioning for yourself. But instead of asking you that, because again, something I noticed that you wrote on LinkedIn, you said that you're tired of the small talk masked as networking. So your
Yes.
advice was stop collecting job titles and start having actual conversations. So one of the questions, instead of don't ask, what do you do? Ask what drew you to your work. So before I ask you about the path and the jobs you were doing, what drew you to the food industry and the work you've been doing from way back when you were in, graduating college?
Well, take it back even before graduating college to when I was a kid. I always wanted to be a marketer, but I didn't know that it would show up the way that it is currently showing up in my life. My earliest memories of wanting to do this kind of work was watching Bewitched as a kid on Nick at Night because Darren, the husband, he was an ad man. And I just always thought that's so cool. I want to do what he does. And so I grew up wanting to get into advertising. I thought that meant working in an agency, maybe being a copywriter. But I had a hard time figuring out how to crack that when I was in college because I got the sense that you kind of needed to do these unpaid internships, and that just wasn't going to work for me financially. I needed a real job. And so I got advice from someone at the time when I was in college who said that food was recession proof. And like people got to eat, basically, was the advice. So that's why when I saw an opportunity to work at Nabisco, I took it. It wasn't marketing, it was sales. But now I look back on that and there definitely was a marketing component to it. And then really every move that I've made since then has been rooted in a curiosity about learning something new. And so during my time at Kraft, I had an opportunity to move to Bentonville, Arkansas, which was absolutely terrifying for me at I don't know, I was probably 25 years old. Um, but I decided to take a chance on it. And I'm so glad I did because it opened up my whole world to, at the time, Walmart was the largest company in the country. And they were doing very sophisticated they had a very sophisticated approach to data and how they serve their customer. And I started to learn more about brand management because they would bring in these brand managers from corporate and they would present their brand plans. And in fact, at one point they paired me up with an intern, a brand marketing intern, and said, "Hey, can you make sure she has a good summer in Arkansas?" And in me showing her around, she taught me about what it was that she did, and it really sparked my curiosity. And at that time, you needed an MBA to get into kind of the traditional marketing
Mhm.
career. So I did decided to pursue that. But because I already knew I loved food and didn't want to make an industry change, I ended up deciding to pursue that at night. And I continued my career as a marketer by day. And so my first marketing job in the traditional sense was at Dole. I was an associate there, and very, brand management 101, learned a ton. But then I was really had my heart set, my eyes on Taco Bell, just because it was such an innovative company. And I thought, what a blast to work on a brand like that. And I really weaseled my way into like meeting the right people and finally getting my foot in the door. And so I spent some incredible years on that brand, and I've continued to say yes to interesting opportunities that have come up since then, all the way up into where I am now at Dig.
Yeah, well, I mean, saying yes is huge in terms of, because as you said, you didn't necessarily know the exact path, but you had a curiosity and you were open to trying different things. Until then, you
Mhm.
found things. But I love the fact that, and I think this is more commonplace in, say, the marketing industry or certain creative industries where you found where you wanted to go. So then you needed to, as you said, weasel your way in, so I think that happens more so in this industry than others, where it's getting to know the right people or right what they're doing so you know what you need to say, and it's really communicating, because in a sense that's what marketing is. You're marketing, you're reaching the people that you need to reach. So I think that says a lot for anyone, so like someone starting out, a woman starting out, obviously it's a little different now than maybe when you were starting, but the basic premise is still the same. What advice would you give to a woman starting out saying, I want to be you, how do I rise through the ranks that way?
It does start with recognizing that there are a lot of different ways that that can look. And so I do encourage people to be curious and go and pursue those conversations with people. Like I mentioned, the Taco Bell opportunity, there were a couple of times when I got no's before I finally got a yes. But a key moment for me was a coffee chat that I had through my network with somebody who worked there. And so I think, the old fashioned notion of breaking through by applying with a resume online, it happens, but there's still a lot to be said for building relationships, leveraging your network. And I think through that, you also get to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because if you find folks that are willing to share with you, it's always good to get a real sense of what it's like. And so making sure to ask those kind of questions, like what's the most energizing thing about what you do? What drains you? So that you don't just fall in love with the title and the responsibilities, but also understand the culture, the nuance, the team dynamic. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Well, but the thing, I'm curious, like I know when I was starting out, it was much more okay for me. Like I would, I'd started in news and entertainment news. I would find a production company that's doing it and just kind of show up. Like you could do those sort of things and they'd think, oh, she's ambitious or she's, whatever, and it'd be positive. I don't feel like you get that as much anymore, like it's everything's online or everything's through text or however. I mean, even getting someone's phone number, I always had a phone number, and for someone now it's like you have an email. So I'm curious, is there a different tactic today that can be the equivalent of us and maybe how you were weaseling and, reading, going into, hanging out at the lobby? I don't know, whatever at Taco Bell. But just, is there another alternative for, people today?
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I remember that when I was trying to get my first job in high school, having like a printed resume and like just walking into a Jamba Juice with my resume and saying, "Are you hiring?" And that is still culturally still true, but now there's different channels to do that. So obviously, LinkedIn is a very key tool for doing that, but also social. Uh, and so I personally, my philosophy on social networks like LinkedIn is I try not to say no to when people reach out to me for a coffee chat. I may need to schedule it well in advance, but on the whole, if somebody's taken the time and is interested in connecting as a woman in marketing, as a person who's interested in my particular company, I do. It's important to me to make time for those conversations. And I will share. I recently connected with a woman, and it was completely out of the blue. You know, sometimes it's obvious to me why somebody's reaching out. Often it's they're an alum of my college, but this woman did not have, she wasn't even in the same industry as me, and she said she was interested in a coffee chat, and I was like, okay, like I was just, I'm like curious. So we chatted, and she said to me, she's like, I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me. She goes, I will tell you, I reached out to another person and I got the feedback that like this is not how I network. It does not cold outreach. If I said yes to every single person who asked for a coffee
Right,
chat, I
right.
wouldn't have any time to do my job. And so that was such an interesting reflection for me because both are valid. And so um and by both I mean person who, yes, who is busy and makes the time for it, but also a person who chooses to have some boundaries around it. And so I only share that to say, I think it's easy to get discouraged by the no's, but you have to be okay with that. You got to put yourself out there, and some people are not going to reply, some people will, but the doors that could open because of the person who's willing to say yes, worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you reach out and they don't reply. I mean, I have to admit, I'm one who kind of takes it personally. Like I try, you can't, like, it's just,
Yeah,
you
we're human.
don't know me. Why is it personal? But you have to get over yourself. You have to get over that in the sense that because, yes, to your point, maybe these three people didn't respond, but then this one person did. So what did I lose with them not responding? Nothing changed. I was still
Right.
me looking for whatever, and then this one person did. So it's just you got to get over yourself and just kind of,
Yeah. And be specific about what you want. Be considerate, if it could be handled in 20 minutes versus an hour, err on the side of being respectful of people's time. But the majority of people out there want to help others. And so I think when you're specific and considerate, you'd be surprised how receptive people are to that.
yeah, no, I agree. So, all right. So, what do people get wrong about you? So, when they first meet you, they maybe assume something, and then a little bit later, they're like, "Oh, you're not like that at all."
I'm a hard person to get to know. And I think if you meet me in the professional sense, one of the reasons why is because I am very outcome oriented professionally. I'm very respectful of time. I don't like small talk. And so if we hop on a call, I'm eager to look at the agenda. What are we trying to get out of this and move on to the next thing? And yet, I also find that when I do get to know people, the feedback, what they share back is that I'm a layered person, that they end up learning that, I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm fiercely loyal, I'm funny. And so one of the things that I have chosen to do is actually spend more time intentionally sharing out the quiet parts. And so I've been on this journey over the last few months of most of which is lived on LinkedIn, which is just sharing my reflections as a marketer, hard lessons learned along the way. And I've really enjoyed how much it has opened up my world. It's helped me to both reconnect with people from my past and also build new connections. And so it's now when I get on calls with folks who, as you say, do their LinkedIn homework, I find that people bring up to me things like, wow, I didn't know you were a twin mom, or I saw that you are a big reality TV fan, and so I'm working on ways to share other parts about myself, but also stay true to who I am, which is a mom that's got a lot on her plate and needs to be really intentional about how she spends her time.
Yes, I saw that. They're preschool grads, twins.
Yes, yeah, on to kindergarten in the fall.
I'm actually a twin, so of course I noticed that. So
Awesome,
are they? What's the difference
identical.
in terms of born? Like 2 minutes apart, five? Like how far? Oh, well, when they're
Like,
identical, they come together, right?
yeah, well, I mean, I had a C-section, so it was one and then the other.
They come together. Yeah, no, they're a package deal. No, because I'm not. My twin is a boy or a guy.
Oh, okay, okay, got it.
And so everyone's always like, I'm basically 2 minutes older. So like, and so
Oh,
that
okay.
I always get like when you're talking with twins who are not identical, it's how and I was
Yes.
actually my mom was a C-section, but they still like I think I was and that's I always can tell the older one, they must have been fighting their way out because they're a little bit more aggressive than the other one. And when we were
That's
younger,
true.
I was, like with my brother, not it changes when you get older, but as babies and kids, I was definitely the one who was probably pushing him, get out of the way.
I believe that. I believe that the personality starts reflecting itself in the womb. But we've made a pact to not tell our girls which one was born first until their 18th birthday. So
Ooh, so
it's
we were all
a,
doing the reveal. You couldn't, the kids couldn't watch this show. So that's great. So, but identical girls though, that must be well, all right, girls in general. So obviously there's ways you want to raise your daughters to be strong or whatever it may be, however you choose. But also when they're identical, again, you didn't tell them purposely who came out first. Is there a fine line? You don't want to compare. I know I had good friends in high school who were identical and they always felt being compared and it just made it difficult for them in some ways, even they were very
yeah.
close. I'm just curious, are there things that you're sort of being very aware of?
Very much so, and probably because I am a marketer, I talked to a lot of twins to understand what the experience is like growing up. Because I have older half siblings, so in a lot of ways, I kind of grew up like an only child. My last sister left the house when I was 5, so I'm so curious about what it is to raise not only siblings but this very special relationship that is the twin one. And so my husband and I made some choices. We did not give them matching names. We do not dress them alike. And everyone who, chooses to give gifts always know, like my mom always knows, she always sends, she never sends two of the same
Mhm.
outfit or anything like that. And right now we're exploring if it might be time to even have them in different classes in kindergarten, because we really want to foster their individuality. But at the same time, we're also trying to honor just how natural that bond is. So when they were infants, they had separate cribs, but when we moved to the toddler bed, every morning we would we would at bedtime put them in separate, and in the morning they'd be cramped in one bed. And so we're also listening to that too, of like, okay, they like to sleep in the same bed. So it's been a really fun journey, getting to see two people who have basically all of the same inputs but still very different personalities, and celebrating that.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny when I was a kid, they made my brother and I, we couldn't be in the same class. They all,
Okay.
everything was separate. If it just that was always the way it was, all through elementary school. I mean, I don't think it mattered in high school. I don't remember, but I remember it was very specific that they separated us. So I guess they changed their mind now. So,
Yeah.
what has there been a piece of advice, a career advice that early on maybe something that you would consider really was such good advice that you still sort of go follow today or want to pass along?
Yes. Greg Creed, the former CEO of Yum, used to always say, take the job that no one wants. And I couldn't agree more. Because when you take the hard jobs, those are the ones that you grow the most from. And there's a lot of upside. You either fix it, and there's a lot to be celebrated, or you're going to learn a lot along the way.
Okay. Now the worst advice. You don't mention the name if you don't have the person who gave it to you. Or you can if you want.
Well, I'll say this. I'd say over the years, I've gotten a lot of well-intentioned advice from women, I'll say more broadly speaking, about how I show up, and how to be likable. And I wish that the women leaders and mentors that I worked with would have spent less time coaching me on palatability and more time on effectiveness.
That makes sense. And I actually, when you were saying earlier, I meant to, where are you from originally?
I grew up in San Diego, California.
Okay, so then it's not what I was thinking because having grown up on the East Coast and when I moved to California, because I'm similar to you when it comes to like I don't do a lot of hi, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Like it's just more like get to the point. Like I call and actually that proved very when I moved to the West Coast, it proved beneficial. Like even like I've had news directors say you got right to the point. You didn't waste my time on the phone. You just any you got anything from me? No, okay, I'll talk to you in a month. You know what I mean? Or whatever, a couple weeks. And that's an East Coast thing, whereas in
Yeah.
California, it was like you're at the grocery store. How are you? And blah blah blah. And I'm like, seriously, just ring it up, please, you know? And so and but then in general, I'm chatty and like, but I can be very quiet and get to the point. So that when you said that about, sort of changing how you come across, I feel like that's a similar thing. Like you can be taken maybe either that you're stuck up or, not nice. I don't know, whatever it is, because you don't take that time to be, with the small talk and ask how their day is going and stuff. But I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you really care? Like, what if I started saying, I hurt my foot today? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was born in New York, so maybe I have a little bit of that, who knows.
You
But yeah, I think there's a difference between politeness and kindness, but sure, directness can come off as cold. So it's a matter of, perspective, I think.
Yeah. And as I said, it comes in its place. Like, you know what I mean? Like I sort of would read the room. Like this guy's a busy guy. He doesn't need me asking him how his day is. Whereas there are others that, yes, you're gonna, so I'm not, it's don't write me and say that I'm just
Yeah.
rude. This, you read the room and then you kind of go from there. But that was definitely something that I felt was an East Coast thing, like kind of get to the point, dragnet version kind of thing. Like just the fact.
Yeah, and like you, I've also learned how to adjust. And so I think I'm much more conscious of like some of the people that I work with are very relational. And so how do I make sure that I'm taking time to ask them what's going on in their life and how their weekend was? And not to be disingenuous, but because it's important to me to support people in the way that they want to be treated, not just the way that I do. So and then also asking for what I need, right? So if I am working with partners and saying like, we only have 30 minutes, so would love if we could just jump right in. I think when we are transparent about what we need, but also considerate of what others need, like we all find a common middle ground.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, one of the reasons I love this is I love hearing people's stories. I love like these are questions I love to ask. I just, as you said, there's a time and a place, and you kind of,
Yeah.
go with it that way. But so what's a guilty pleasure when the kids are in bed and you're just like, what do you do to just kind of, no one has to know. You're just gonna do it.
It is reality TV for me. I am, and to be specific, I'm really into 90 Day Fiance. It's like my favorite. Everyone on my team knows, like, I love 90 Day Fiance. It's the biggest eye roll for my husband, although, like, he definitely notices, he knows what's going on. Like, I see him kind of pause and watching when I'm watching, but I love the thing that's fun about whatever franchise, if you're into like following reality TV or even dramas, I love to be a part of the community of other people that are into it too. So I'm also like I'm a Reddit user, so I'm like deep in the Reddit threads, and I just think it's a fun pastime to indulge myself in like silly reality TV.
Oh yeah, 90% of the answers for that question are some reality TV shows.
Really?
And I get what your husband, because to be honest, I don't particularly like reality. And a part of it was covering reality when I was doing entertainment news.
Ah,
It's like, why am I on the red carpet? I don't know who that person is. You know what I mean? Like, so like those kind
yeah.
of things, I sort of like, but that said, I have friends, my brother loves it, and I would say be over visiting and I get into it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that I
It sucks you in.
it does suck you in, but then I maybe wouldn't do it on my own. It was so
Sure.
it's like, but it is, I completely get how people get into it. I just sort of stay clear. But
It's for the best. I wouldn't recommend it.
I'm a like new not news crime drama person. Like I love
Oh,
all
wow. Me
NCIS
too.
is things like that, like the where it's not the real crime, although I get into that.
Oh, I'm true crime.
You are true crime. Yes, I'm like crime drama, like just all of those. I could murder someone and get away with it because, I know all of it. I've watched this for so long. It's like, nope, you need your booties. Okay, like whatever. So yeah, that's my thing. But and other people are just like, eh. But anyway, so Okay, so I'm curious, has there been a failure or a challenge, or a perceived failure maybe, just didn't, it really sort of was a gut kick, like, okay, how am I going to get through this? Has there been an experience like that? And how did you get through
Many. But
it?
to be specific, I'll share career-related one, which is that I really had a hard time in my role at Burger King. I relocated my entire family to from California, where I consider myself from, to Florida for this job. And in hindsight, I mean, the role was really about change management. And so I came from a place where we all sang from the same hymn book, and we were working on a common vision into a time in an organization that was reevaluating the strategy. And so what I learned from that experience was how to advocate for my thoughts in rooms with people who maybe didn't think like me. I had to learn how to let go of things that I advocated for that others, didn't agree, arguments I didn't win, so to speak. And so while I was in that chapter, I felt many little failures, just like struggling to communicate my vision or see eye to eye with peers. But at the same time, now with the benefit of hindsight, there was a lot that I did accomplish, and a lot of impact that I did have. And so I'm such a better marketer for having been in a place where I had to learn how to communicate differently. So I don't regret it, but when I was in it, there were times where I felt like, gosh, I'm really, have I made a mistake here? Is this not right for me? And it was the right chapter, but not every chapter is going to feel um, joyful all the time.
Yeah. And so you just basically, even though it wasn't necessarily, you weren't feeling your best, you just plowed through. You just, you just kept going through with it. And I think that's important, because we're not always going to love our job. There's certain things that you're going to have to be expected from you to get through in order to get to where you maybe want to be.
It taught me resilience for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so my last question for you is Dig or Dig In has a
Mhm.
tagline made from scratch with purpose. So I want to ask you, is there something in your life personally that took it and made it from scratch and with purpose? It doesn't have to be food. It can be, but it doesn't. It's just something where it was you, it was yours, and you started it from scratch. I mean, it could be taking from other people. It doesn't have to be just all Jessica, but
Yes. Truthfully, my whole life is very intentionally designed. And I'd say a lot of that my spouse's upbringing. I grew up with an immigrant parent and very working class parents who worked really hard to give me the opportunities that I've had. And my husband is an immigrant himself. He came to this country at 29 years old. And so we feel every day so consciously grateful for the life that we've built together, and the life that we're able to give our children. And so, right now my kids are at surf camp and they're 5 years old. And so it's great to be able to build a life where, my husband and I, we both work, we work really hard, but we make choices to live a life that really fulfills us. For example, there's a lot I outsource. I don't do a lot of domestic
Mhm.
duties in my home, and that's something that I wish other women talked about more, because I think earlier in my career, I've had the benefit of working with so many incredible women, and always wondering how they did it all. And I know for me, the answer is I don't do it all. And so choosing to really focus on our careers and then spending quality time together as a family, and giving our kids opportunities to experiment and figure out what things that they're excited about, from a hobby standpoint.
Well, and I think that, I mean, it's such a good point. Like you're working all week, you have your weekend to be with the girls. That's your time. And do you really need to be spending 3 hours cleaning the house? It's just like, or whatever it may be. But I feel like some women feel like they're lacking if they're not doing that in some way. And that's something that I think women feel and shouldn't. But if it's important to you, that's fine. I know some people who really like to clean.
Right.
But I'm not saying,
Yeah.
but I do, I'm with you. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like where it's not important, let someone else take over. So you have time for the important things. And maybe it's even just taking a yoga class or watching 90, what is it, 90 Day?
90 Day Fiance, exactly. Yeah. So it's ironic. I'd say the irony of the scratch cooking is I do not do the cooking in my house. I have the support of my in-laws. My mother-in-law does a lot of the cooking during the week. So yeah, I don't scratch cook in the literal sense.
So I won't do a follow-up. Is there a Jessica recipe that's your go-to recipe? Is it takeout?
Basically, but I will say I have my relationship with cooking has evolved a lot as a result of my work at Dig because we do a lot of scratch cooking. And one of the things, anybody who joins our support team, the first thing you do is you work in the restaurants. And my first day at Dig, I learned how to make pesto. And I didn't know how to make pesto. I had honestly never thought about how pesto was made. I bought it at Trader Joe's. And so, what Dig has taught me is when I do cook, because I enjoy cooking for fun. What is hard for me to do with all of my work travel is, midweek meals on a regular basis. But when I do cook, I working at Dig has made me more confident because I used to be the kind of person that thought, oh, you got to like follow the recipe and get out the measuring. But when you hang around with chefs, they teach you the nuances of cooking. And so now that is one thing that I don't buy anymore. I don't buy pesto because I keep a basil leaf plant. And if you have basil and olive oil in a blender, voila, you have pesto. So I've caught a few things along the way working with Dig Chefs, but yeah, I also have the Uber Eats app very readily available too.
Give it memorized.
Yeah, exactly.
The phone. I was going to say the number, but yeah, it's the app, so you don't need the number. No, that's awesome. But I love, and the difference of baking and cooking, because I'm the same way. I don't want to do the day to day, but I love to do certain things that I like to make. But I don't ever really, I just kind of know how much I'm adding. And
Intuitive.
whereas baking, you have to be so precise, which is probably why I don't bake.
It's true. Yeah.
Anyway, well, Jessica, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking with you and getting to know you this way.
Yeah, thank you for the thoughtful questions.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if thank you for watching. And if you have a fantastic woman you'd like me to, a marketer that you'd like me to pull back the curtain on, please let me know who you'd want me to talk to, and I will do my best. So thanks again for watching, and thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.